Hi you guys, welcome back to my channel. It's me, Joy, and for those of you who didn't know, I had a baby. Yeah, I did. So today I'm going to be sharing with you guys my labor story. I'm trying to keep said baby asleep right now, so yeah, bear with me. Bear with us. So for me, I would say my labor started on Tuesday. Okay, so on Tuesday around 11 p.m. He's a little hot in here, but on Tuesday around 11 p.m. I was on the phone with my sister, and I started to feel tightening around my stomach, and it would happen pretty often. It didn't hurt or anything, but I was able to I was able to time them, and I was able to see how far apart they were, and they were coming pretty consistent, lasting for about 30-45 seconds, but no pain like that. So I ate some fruit. I was up until like 2-3 o'clock in the morning that night, and I was still experiencing this tightening sensation around my stomach. And yeah, so Wednesday the tightening continued, but it wasn't as consistent, and it still didn't hurt. So okay, so Wednesday I continued my day, and I did things as I would normally. And around 5-6 o'clock, I spent some time with my boyfriend, and after that I felt the tightening sensation get a little bit more intense, and at that point it was like I cannot sit down because it really hurts when I'm sitting down. So we went for a drive, and I was like, I need to get out of this car because these don't feel good. So I was still a little bit in denial. I was like, okay, well, maybe this is just Braxton Hicks or whatever, and I'm gonna wake up tomorrow and they're not gonna be there, and I'm gonna have to, just live another day with the pregnant body. So that ended up not being the case. Throughout the night, Wednesday night, my tightening sensations started to get more intense. They didn't hurt at that point, however I was able to feel them. So when I woke up around 7 o'clock that morning, I was having them, and they felt like my period was on, and I got up, and I was literally laying over my bed. I'll insert a picture. I was laying over my bed, and it was like the only way that I could stay comfortable. You can't breathe like that, Baba. Okay. He wants to suffocate. So it was the only way that I could stay comfortable. So I started timing them from around 7:45 that morning. No, is my timeline off? Okay, no, Wednesday morning. So yeah, my timeline is off. I was on the phone with my sister Monday night. Tuesday is when they started to get more intense, and Wednesday is when I started timing them. Ooh, it was a long time ago, but it wasn't that long, but still. So Wednesday, I started timing them, and around they were lasting around 30-45 seconds, 5 to 7 minutes apart. But like I said before, oh, okay, they were just like my period was on, and I was really like, I felt like if this is labor, this is a breeze. This is like, I must have the best body. Like, God must really love me, because like I was living my life like it was golden. So I did things normally. I ate and things like that. You know, I didn't do much. I was just in the house. But around one around 1 o'clock, I still was literally in this position where I was laying over my bed. And it was like, just like my period was on. So I text I called the birth center, and I was like, hey, I'm letting you guys know that I'm having contractions. They're lasting about 30-45 seconds, 5 to 7 minutes apart. So I was like, do you guys want me to call you when they're lasting for a minute and 5 minutes apart, or what? So they told me to come into the birth center around 5 p.m. So I was on the phone with my aunts and cousins. I was laughing, I was dancing. I took a shower. I even did my hair. Like, I was really good, like, until 5 p.m. I was like literally smiling. At some point around 4, I had to start, stopping during each surge, but it still was like, it was like, hold on, I'm having another one. And then I had to breathe through it. And then that would be it. It would go away, and I'll be back to my happy-go-lucky self. And that was my experience until I got to the birth center. Once I got to the birth center, I talked to the midwife, and the surgeries were a bit more intense at the birth center because I was sitting down and I wasn't able to lay down like how I was before. But I felt like, okay, they're either going to tell me to go home or they're going to keep me. So the midwife checked me, and I was only 2 centimeters dilated. And I had the most hope. I was like, I'm 4 centimeters. Someone tells me I'm 4 centimeters. No, only 2. So I had to get to 10. And I was like, okay. So when she checked my cervix, some of my mucus plug came out. And after I left the birth center, I feel like because some of my mucus plug came out, my surges got more intense. And we got in the car after we left the birth center, and my mom was like, okay, you need to eat. We need to find something to eat. So I'm looking on maps, and I'm like, okay, well, this place is, around the corner, whatever. And then 5 minutes later, I kid you not, I was like, get me out of this car. I need to go home. I cannot sit back here for another, like, contraction. I cannot. I refuse to. So go home, and we can make me a peanut butter and jelly sandwich for all I care. Get me out of this car. So we went home, and it was around like 5. It was around 6 o'clock. And I promise you, I came home, I took off my slides, and I laid down. I lay across the bed, and I was talking to my boyfriend at one point, and then after that, I just stopped talking. My mom tried to get me to eat dinner, and I took like 2 bites, and I did not want to eat anymore, and I was done. I was like, I'm going to sleep. So that's what I did, and I slept. as much as I could. Of course, I would like consciously wake up when I was having another contraction, but I was still able to rest. And that was up until maybe 8-9 o'clock. I was not keeping track of the time. At that point, I was literally telling my boyfriend, I was like, Andre, press the timer. Like, and I would mumble it because my head was still down, and he pressed the timer, and then I'd be like, end it. And then he'd end it, and then I'd go back into like this little zone. So that's what that was like. And then around 8 o'clock, it could have been 9 o'clock, it could have been 10 o'clock. It could have been any time between there. I literally started crying because they were so intense. Like, I felt myself getting tired. I knew I hadn't eaten. I was not drinking any water. Like, I couldn't even like get myself to get up. Like, it was he said I'm talking too much. Really, I feel like he had to let y'all know that he was alive, but that's okay. Oh, excuse you. So that's what that stretch of time was like. I was out of it, and around, I'm gonna say 10 o'clock, like I said, I was crying, and I was like, in my mind, I was just like, I'm tired. And these, I would not, people ask, is having a baby painful? I wouldn't say that what you feel is pain. Is it intense? Yes. But is it pain? No. No, it wasn't pain. So around 10 o'clock, I'm gonna say it was 10 o'clock. Around 10 o'clock, I got up, and I'm like, you know what? Like, I kind of just started like talking to myself, and I was like, I can do this. I can do it. I can do it. I can do it. Like, I literally just, I kept reminding myself, like, I can do it. I can do it. I can do it. And at this point, I was half yelling through each surge. It was like a yell slash moan slash like I'm just opening my mouth and screaming through each surge, and that helped so much. On the surges where I would be like, oh my gosh, and I see you're yelling, I was like, no, I'm going to continue to yell, because it was as if like when I would try to hold it in, it just wouldn't, it hurt more. So when I was able to like let it out and moan, it made me feel so much better. So that's what I was doing, and it would get pretty loud. So I got up around 10 o'clock, and calling the midwife. I forgot about that part. I called the midwife, letting them know like my contractions are more intense. I called her around 9 o'clock actually. I called her around 9 o'clock, and I told her they're more intense. And she was like, well, did you drink water? Have you stayed hydrated? And she told me to get a smoothie and then try getting in a tub. So my mom made the smoothie, and I drank the smoothie. That smoothie was amazing. And about 10 minutes later, my mom was like, you're not getting in the tub. And I was like, what you mean I'm not getting in the tub? That's supposed to help relieve, whatever. But then she said, because she could tell how intense my contractions were and how often they were coming, she felt as if I were to get into the tub, my body would have begun to go through transition. So she said, you're not getting in the tub. Call the midwife and tell her that you need to meet her immediately. So I called the midwife around 10 o'clock. Okay, it's coming back to me now. And she said, okay, I stay about 30 minutes away from the birth center, so I'm gonna get dressed and meet you there at 11. So I'm like, okay. I'm amping myself up. I'm like, you know what? This is when I have begun to talk to myself. Like, I can do it. I can do this. This is something that I can do. I can do it. So I get up and I'm telling myself, I can do it. I can do it. So I'm starting to, move around and get myself together. We had already packed the bag to go to the birth center. So everything was still in the car, and I was just like, I can do it. So around 10:15, I put on some gospel music because I really needed like God himself to help me and to uplift me and to give me some energy, because there was no way. Like, I was drained. I was so drained. And I just put on some gospel music. So the first song that I played was Grateful by, is it Hezekiah? Anyway, the song is called Grateful, and the song just reminded me to be grateful for the process that I was going through. Like, when you're in labor, you can mind over matter, period, in life, okay? So in my mind, I decided that I was going to change the way that I was speaking to myself. So when I was laying down, before I got up and started to encourage myself, I was really tired, and I was really like beginning to sink into the physical sensations that I was feeling. So I got up and I'm still crying, and I'm like, I'm grateful. I'm having a baby. I'm so grateful I'm having a baby. And I'm doing this until like 10:30, when I hear a pop and then gush. And at that point, my water had broken. And literally, when I heard the pop, I was resting on my boyfriend. I heard the pop, and he said, "That's your water." And I was like, "That's my water?" So he like pushed me. I pushed myself. Like, it was like I was almost like thrown off the edge of the bed. And then literally all my water just started coming out. So I sent a picture to the midwife, and she was like, "Is that your water? Because it looks a little dark. And when your water breaks, it's supposed to be like water." So to the midwife, this was the first sign that something was wrong. So I was like, "No, I think I peed too." She was like, "Okay, well, we're gonna call you. You're gonna come to the birth center. I'm gonna test your water and see what it is." So once my water had broken, my surges got, like, every time they get more intense, you like, all right, this is the max level of intensity. And then it got more intense. So once my water had broken, and I already knew that when your water breaks, your surges get more intense. Excuse me. But because of what I was feeling, I didn't know what to expect. So after my water broke, they got more intense. Hella. Okay? Like, it got real at that point. So I met the midwife at the birth center at 11, and on the way to the birth center, I seriously almost cried because I could not sit down. I couldn't sit down before my water broke. I couldn't sit down when I was just, playing around the day before. I definitely couldn't sit down now. And I was so happy when we finally made it to the birth center. The birth center is like 6 minutes away from my house. So I was so happy. So I got up and I like ran to the door, and I was having surges very, very, very consistently. At that point, they were 2 minutes apart, lasting, I don't know how long. I stopped timing them because who cares at that point? And yeah, so I get to the birth center, and I have like 3 contractions before I make it to where the table, I guess, where you gotta hop up at, and she check you. So I do that, and she checks my water, and she comes back and she tells me, she says, the baby's pooped inside, so the best thing that you can do is go to a hospital. Mind you, a hospital was not in my birth plan. That was the whole point of me being real granola and going to a birth center. So I was a little devastated at that point, but I knew that I had to make the best decision that I could for the safety of me and, of course, my baby. So I asked her which hospital does she recommend. So I went to the hospital where they have a doctor that works with the birth center, because I wanted a doctor that was familiar with the practice that I was coming from and would not rush me to do anything that I just personally didn't want to do. Like, I personally didn't want a C-section, and when your baby poops inside of the placenta, they can inhale it. So there's no way to know how long ago he pooped. There was no way to know if he had already inhaled it. So it was a pretty serious situation. So around, we left the birth center. No, before we left the birth center, I had already made the decision, like, okay, we're going to go to the hospital that she recommended. And I'm sitting down on the chair, and she's talking to my mom, and I'm talking to my boyfriend, and I'm like, when I get to the hospital, I'm getting an epidural. I am getting the epidural. And my boyfriend was like, okay, well, if you want the epidural, he was like, okay. And I was so tired at that point. I can't say that I wanted to die, because I didn't, but I wanted the process to be over. Like, I was really over it. So as I'm talking to him, I'm like, I'm going to throw up. So I don't remember if he told the midwife that I was going to throw up, but she got me that barf bag just in the nick of time, because that smoothie came right on up, and I just was even more over it after that, because that was the only energy that I had, and I threw it up. So we leave the birth center. I don't know what time, but I'm gonna say 10:30, 10:45, and then we make it. Well, we got to the hospital before midnight, but on the way to the hospital, I left my body. And you know, you might be like, if you've had a child without, I feel like at a certain point during labor, you leave your body regardless. You enter labor land. That's what it's called, labor land. And I left my body. I already told y'all I could not handle the contractions when I was sitting down at all. So for me to be in the car, I was in the car. I was laying, my head was leaning into the car seat, and I'm sitting here and I'm calling my son's name, and I'm saying, please, like, I'm begging him at this point, and I'm just, please. That's all I kept saying. I'm like, Isaiah, please, 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 God, please, please, please. So then I don't know what time we make it to the hospital, but I do remember the car stopped, and I was still in the back seat, laid out. And by the time I got up, they had gotten all the bags out. They had, you know, like, everybody was together, and I just, that was beautiful. Sorry, I saw 4 birds. They were like flying in a straight line. Okay, so where am I at? Okay, I knew the car stopped. They were waiting on me, and I was just out of it, and I was like, I'm gonna get up when I'm ready to get up, because these things hurt. They don't hurt, they're intense. They're very, very, very intense. So I probably had like 3 more contractions in the car, and then finally I got up, and I was like, let's do this. Like, that's literally all that I was on, period. I'm like, let's go. So I walk to the front door of the hospital, and the security guard says, one of you can't stay. So Of course, the baby's father stayed, got the stuff. He and my mom were talking, and I went inside, checked myself in. I filled out my own paperwork. Don't know how I did it, but by the grace of God, I did. So by the time I finished my paperwork and sat down, the nurse came down with the wheelchair to wheel me up to my room. Now, because my midwife called the hospital ahead of time, they had already had a room prepared for me, so I didn't have to go to triage and wait. And I thank God. I really do thank God, because that made all the difference. And mind you, this is around midnight, almost 1 o'clock. So she wheels me up, and I get into the room. They make me change my clothes. They insert the IV and stuff. And at this point, there were a couple things that like I personally did not care for, but because I was just so like in my own world, I didn't care to make a fuss, and I didn't care to be like, you know, agitated, or I didn't want any of that. So I stayed where I was in my bubble, and I let them do whatever they had to do. They made me change my dress, and I remember asking, I'm like, I can't just keep this on, and they were like, no, you have to change. So I did not fight them. The nurse, they decided to put me on fluids, and before they put me on fluids, I felt like I was gonna pass out and maybe even die, and I'm not kidding. But afterwards, I just felt like I had some energy again, like I felt like I could endure. So I was signing papers and everything, and I remember asking, I'm like, I don't want the epidural, but if I change my mind, can I get it? And she was like, yeah, you signed the papers, so you're fine. So then so yeah, they do all that, and I just continue having contractions. And with every contraction, I call my boyfriend. I'm like, Andre, and I call him, and then he comes and he rubs my back. And then at one point, he like kept trying to sit down, but I think he was really just trying to get out the nurse's way. And no, there was no way I would have been able to get through it without him literally just rubbing my back, or like being close to me, period. Because if you don't know, oxytocin and endorphins help move your labor along and also ease the sensations that you're feeling. So with me having such a close loved one to me, it made me feel more secure, even with all these people who I could not see because my eyes were closed, were like touching me and prodding me and making me sign stuff and talk to me. The fact that he was just there, I wouldn't have been able to do without him. So shout out to that man. But yeah, so after they kind of like left me alone, I don't know how long passed, but I threw up again. And this time I think I threw up what I had ate for lunch, and then soon after that I threw up again, and this point it was bile. So it had like a yellowish brown tinge to it, and my boyfriend was like, is that the baby's poop? I think you throwing up his poop. And I'm like, no, Andre, that's not possible. I can't throw up his poop. It's like in a whole different section of my body. And then so he ran out and told the nurses and was like, her throw up is brown. What is going on? Her throw up is like dark. What is going on? So the nurse came in and she was like, oh, it's just bile. And he was like, bro, at this point he started to get not frustrated, but he saw what I was going through, and he wanted it to be over for me. So shortly after I threw up the third time, my body began to push, and it was like throwing up, taking a dookie at the same time. Like, And then like muscles in my arms and my back were also pushing, and I did not even know that that was possible. But it was like my whole body was just like pushing. So I told Andre, I said, I'm pushing. Tell them I'm pushing. So the nurse runs in there and she was like, no, 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 you're not ready yet. You're not ready yet. Stop pushing. You need to control yourself. Control your breathing. You need to breathe. Breathe. Like, don't push. Don't push. You're going to tear. So once she said I was going to tear, I was like, how am I supposed to stop pushing? I'm not even pushing in the first place. My body is pushing. There's a big difference. But nonetheless, I still, tried. I think he just do. I still tried to control myself. And she was like, she came, and the next time I pushed, she said, stop, stop, stop. Don't push, don't push. You're not ready. You're not ready. So I'm like, I can't stop. I'm not even pushing. How am I supposed to stop? She said, you need to breathe. You need to breathe. So I'm like, the next time I push, I'm like, I'm screaming, but I'm still trying to breathe at the same time. And I was like, there's no way this lady knows what she's talking about. Like, there's no way I cannot push. Like, what are you talking about? So as I'm pushing that second time, she checks me again. And she's like, you still have a little bit more, like, you still have a little bit more to go. And I was like, nah, y'all got me bent. Y'all got me bent. I'm pushing and this baby is coming out and I'm not stopping it. I'm going to breathe. Yes, I'm going to breathe. I'm not just going to push. But this baby is coming out right now. Like, he's coming right now. So then afterwards, she leaves again. And then she comes back the next time I start pushing. Like, it was oddly very in sync. So at that point, when she saw, I'm not sure if she saw the head. I don't know what she saw. I was holding on to the side of that bed, and I was just letting my body do what my body did. And after that, I heard everybody start rushing in. Like, they said, all right, you're gonna have to lift up. And this, like, we're gonna lift you up. Like, she was like, they was preparing me to really start pushing. So they pushed me on my back. They didn't push me on my back, but I rolled over on my back because I was more comfortable at that point. And then they tried to open my legs real wide, and I said, nah, bring her back. So then I pushed, and then that was it. Then they kept like preparing. Then I pushed again, and I felt his big old head. Look at this big old noggin. I felt that whole thing. Well, it wasn't the whole thing, but like come out like this. And then because it stung a little bit. The ring of fire is not as intense as people say, in my experience. So it came like this, and then I sucked it back in. I felt it. I was like, not yet. So then after I sucked it back in, that next time I pushed, it was like he just shot out, and it sounded just like that. Like, it sounded like when my water broke, like pop. Then he shot through, and then he was on the ground, not on the ground. He was on the bed, and then I was just, at that moment, I finally opened my eyes. From when I got to the hospital room till then, my eyes were closed. I finally opened my eyes, and I saw everybody. And then I remember looking at my nurse, and I was like, have you been here the whole time? And she was like, yeah, I've been here since you got up here. And I was like, oh my gosh, thank you. I'm so grateful. And of course, I wanted to do immediate skin to skin, but because they didn't know if if my baby had inhaled his own poop, they had to take him, and they checked him, and they weighed him and all that stuff. But he was able to do skin to skin with my boyfriend, which I still appreciated. And then after that, they pulled my placenta out and sewed me up. I had a first degree tear because I feel like my son he was like this in the womb, and he's still like this right now as he's asleep. And of course, when he came out, he was like this. So he stretched me a little bit more than what I was ready for, but I got 3 stitches, and that was it. My baby was born 2:43 a.m. So like from I felt like 10:30 until 2:43, I was done. Those were the most intense hours, I feel like. Well, no, once I came back from the birth center, but that was it. I had my baby and he was born, and I felt like just the happiest thing on earth. I felt so many things. It was so many things. I ended up not getting the epidural. They thought I was gonna get it, and I was like, nah, I'm okay, I'm good. And yeah, so if you have a mother, if you were born into this world, go hug your mother 1,000 times and tell her you're grateful and you love her, because she birthed you out. Even if she had a C-section, you go thank that lady, because it's intense. Having a baby is intense. And yeah, but with God, nothing is impossible. So that's my labor story, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. This is a really, really long video, but that's okay. And yeah, I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace.